Welcome back to Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Thank you so much for joining us again. We're joined by Mark Ridley-Thomas, a member of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. Sir, we thank you so much for joining us again.
Glad to be here.
I'm going to talk to you about the union movement.
Yeah.
I think in a lot of ways we saw the union movement suffer a bit. It seems as if in a strange way, though, with a Republican wave, it's been reinvigorated. We look at Wisconsin, for example, a Republican wave there. The Republicans have passed anti-union legislation, and yet, wow, the union movement is back. Explain that phenomenon.
Well, I think it's clear that Republicans and others may have underestimated the extent to which people in this nation do in fact believe that workers deserve to be protected against arbitrary and capricious activity on the part of employers. That's kind of a fundamental principle. And they have, in Wisconsin, the governor has behaved in a very extreme way. And reasonable people know that. Therefore, you have labor being in a position to credibly argue this is wrong, this is overreaching, and you're hurting us beyond what's defensible.
Now let's bring it home. We recently had an election, city council election. Bernard Park's the incumbent in the 8th district, South Los Angeles essentially. I mean, 3 months ago, he seemed like the clear front runner, but his opponent, his main opponent, Foresi Hogan Rolls, came out very strong. The election is still unclear. He could be forced into a runoff. She had significant labor support.
Correct.
How important has that been? It's
been critically important, particularly in this district where it is the largest concentration of labor households in the entirety of the city of Los Angeles. Therefore, labor was smart enough to target where it is strongest. And I think it's important to make the distinction that when you talk about labor, you shouldn't think of labor monolithically. There are different elements in labor. You have the trades, you have the public sector entities, but in fact, when they move in concert, they make a big difference. And their fundamental premise is that workers deserve to be protected. And I think that's a concept that all of us understand and appreciate, but within the context of what's reasonable. And unfortunately, Councilman Parks has positioned himself as being anti-labor, therefore leaving them with no choice but to defend themselves.
At the same time, we know the city, the county, the state has suffered under the weight of tremendous pension obligations.
Absolutely.
And much of those pension obligations have resulted from, let's say, strong negotiations by labor.
That's right.
So now you're trying to get out from under those obligations.
Yes.
Can it be done in a way that is mutually beneficial, respectful, because we do need some pension reform?
Absolutely, and I think it can be, and I think that labor is obliged to be reasonable in those negotiations. But at the same time, management, as it is described, is also obliged to be reasonable. And the problem with Councilman Parks is that he hasn't been, and he's positioned himself in a way that it has disadvantaged management, that is elected officials in the city, because it has created a kind of wedge that doesn't create dialogue but conflict.
Regardless of what happens in this particular race, do you believe that the fact that this race has been so close demonstrates that labor is alive and well and is a positive force for our city?
I believe it is a textbook case of what can happen when you are not reasonable, conflict resolution oriented, instead you're combative as an elected official. Our job is to resolve problems, not create more and create conflict.
Okay, his name is Mark Ridley-Thomas, a member of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. My name is Brad Pomerance. Thank you so much for watching Local Edition. Now we're going to send you back to HLN.